Today, we're going to talk about White Box. Hey everyone, I'm Tristan. This is Heroes in Homebrew. Today we're talking about White Box, which is an extension of Swords and Wizardry by Matt Finch. It's published by Seattle Hill Games and comes in 3 different covers. This is the one I picked up off Amazon for about $5. It's a lot lighter than basic fantasy role-playing game, which I like, but for me, for ease of just pick up and play, I think I might be going with White Box for that. Inside, it's got your 4 basic races, your 4 classes, a plethora of spells that would be familiar to anyone who's played Dungeons and Dragons before, as well as some interesting rules. It has both the Thaco rule and the Ascending Armor class, so depending on what style you want to use, the rules are in there, as well as the conversions for all the monsters and characters, if you want, depending on which armor class system you want to use. Another thing that I really like is it has both a single saving throw and it has a saving throw matrix per class. So the saving throw matrix is for things like save versus wands, save versus death, save versus spells versus poison, etc. Whereas the single saving throw is just one single saving throw you need to use for all of these things. Personally, I really like the single saving throw system. It's less stuff to put on a character sheet. There's a lot less fiddly bits to work around. And I think it's a lot easier for newer players to pick up. The book itself is gorgeous. It has black and white artwork that's very reminiscent of the original D&D, but is also modern and stylistic. The tables inside are 3 colors. You have a black header and then alternates between white and gray, which makes it very easy to read on the page. It also comes with everything you need to run the game. So this book is all there is for the game. It has monsters, spells, ideas for running the game, very small like GM section on how to create an adventure, stuff like that. Has tables for random encounters. So everything you need to get up and running is in this book for $5. Now the same can also be said for basic fantasy. However, like I said, basic fantasy to me, upon first glance, is a bit more condensed. It's much easier for a 5e player to get into, especially if they're closer to the newer side. But for an experienced 5e player, there should be no problem with them picking up White Box and running with it. Gaining levels is based on XP from defeating creatures, as well as collecting gold. This kind of forces players to decide if it's really worth it to fight the creatures for a very little amount of XP, or try and outwit the creatures for more gold to raise their levels quicker. Of course, this doesn't mean that you're not going to be in combat at all, but something players have to consider is that the combat in OSR games can be a lot more deadly. Your characters aren't starting off as superheroes, they're starting off as essentially normal people who kind of know how to fight and eventually become heroes, but rarely will ever attain the level of superhero. Combat system in White Box works much the same way as it does in 5e, but also is very OSR in style. You roll for surprise, then you roll for initiative. A lot of the OSR games have a surprise round, which I really like, because you're not always going to have characters meeting each other and going, hey, we're going to fight. You know, you're going to have someone sneaking up on the other, or just walking around the corner in a dungeon, and all of a sudden you're face to face with a creature that is going to start attacking you. But if you roll for surprise, it's possible that both sides are surprised, or a couple of characters in each side are surprised, and then you're going to be out of the fight for 1 round. So instead of the monster reaction rolls that a lot of other games have, the monsters have morale. So based on their number of morale, at any point during combat or any encounter, the game master or referee can roll a morale check for the monster, and that will indicate whether the monster is going to run away or not, or keep attacking, or beg for its life, what have you. I find this very interesting because it takes out of the referee's hands deciding whether or not the monsters are going to react a particular way. Leaves it up to the dice and frees the referee from a lot of thinking. So in White Box, the default race is human. So if you don't choose another race to be, you're automatically assumed to be human. The other three races are dwarf, elf, and halfling, who all have their own special features. And the races are cleric, fighter, rogue, and magic user. So it kind of frees you up to kind of create the type of character you want to be. Now, this is the same in a lot of other OSR games, specifically like Basic Fantasy. It's the same 4 classes, same 4 races. This is something I've really come to enjoy with OSR games. I feel like being limited in the type of classes you can be kind of frees you up to be more imaginative. It frees you up to sort of create more of a character than being like, well, I'm this character, I've got these feats and this and this and this. Your character becomes based on how you role play it and how he behaves in the game, and not how he behaves based on a lot of feats or abilities that he has. This is something that I think is refreshing, and I think for a lot of people playing modern role-playing games that have a wealth of choices, this is going to be very refreshing for them as well. Overall, if you're looking for a bit of a change and you're looking to have something that's a bit more of the old style 80s D&D, White Box may be the way to go. Pick it up, check it out, run it with your friends. I'm Tristan, this is Heroes in Homebrew. Save a seat for me at your table.